Hello Year 2, how are you? I hope you had a lovely half term and welcome to today's science lesson. So today we are going to be carrying on with our growth and survival unit that we started last half term by looking at what animals, including humans, need to survive. So even though animals are different in lots of different ways, for example, they could be from a different group of animals or they could have babies in different ways, all animals need the same things in order to survive, in order to stay alive. So by the end of today's lesson, you'll be able to explain these basic needs to me, but you'll also be able to understand that even though all animals have the same basic needs, different animals get these needs in different ways. Now, before we have a look at what animals need to survive, I'd like to see what you can remember from our lesson before half term. Now, in our lesson before half term, if you remember, we looked at the different stages of development and what humans are like at these different stages. So here you have 3 questions for your retrieval activity. Now in each question, you need to circle the correct answer. So the first one asks you for which of these statements does not relate to babies. So circle the statement that does not relate to babies. The second one, you need to circle the statement that does not relate to toddlers. And in the third one, the statement that does not relate to children. Okay, so could you pause the video now and have a go at your retrieval activity for me? Okay, Yeti, so let's have a look at the answers together. Well, number 1, which of these statements does not relate to babies? Is it A, they say their first words, B, they have little control over their bodies, or C, they only drink milk? Well, I know that babies cannot eat solid foods yet, can they? So therefore, they do only drink milk because milk is a liquid. So therefore, it's not C because C definitely relates to babies. Well, is it A, they say their first words, or B, they have little control over their bodies? Well, I know that babies do not have very much control over their bodies, do they? Because they can't sit up on their own, they can't stand up on their own. And remember, I told you that you have to hold the back of a baby's head because they can't control their head on their own. So therefore, it's not B or C, because both B and C relate to babies. So therefore, it is A, they say their first words, because babies can't talk, can they? Can you remember the stage of development where humans start saying their first words? Yes, that's right. It's when a human is a toddler. Okay, which of these statements does not relate to toddlers? Is it A, they develop muscles to stand up on their own? B, they start to learn to walk by themselves? Or C, they can learn how to read and write? Well, I know that when you're a baby, you have very little control over your body. So when you become a toddler, that is going to change a little bit. And yes, you do start to develop muscles to stand up on your own. So therefore, A does relate to toddlers. And because you can stand up on your own, you also start to learn to walk. Even though you're a little bit wobbly on your feet, you do start to learn to walk. So therefore, both A and B do relate to toddlers. So therefore, it is C that doesn't relate to toddlers. They can learn how to read and write because a toddler can't read or write yet, can they? Can you remember the stage of development where you do learn to read and write? Yes, that's right. It's when you're a child. Fantastic. Okay, and the last one. Which of these statements does not relate to children? Is it A, their bodies start to change into that of an adult? B, they learn to do more things by themselves? Or C, muscles are more developed so they can walk and run steadily? Well, we've just found out that when you're a baby, you have very little control over your body. But when you're a toddler, you start to develop muscles that help to stand up on your own. But as I said, you're a little bit wobbly. So therefore, when you go to the next stage of development, which is a child, you learn how to walk and run steadily because you can all walk and run steadily, can't you? So therefore, C does relate to children. So it's not going to be that one. What about they learn to do more things by themselves? Well, we know that when you're a baby, you can't do anything for yourself, can you? But then when you become a toddler, you start to do more things for yourself so that you, for example, can feed yourself. But then when you're a child, so when you start going to school, you can learn to do more things by yourself. So therefore, both B and C relate to children. So therefore, it is A that does not relate to children. Their bodies start to change into that of an adult. Can you remember the stage of development where your body starts to change into that of an adult? Yes, you're right. It's when you're a teenager, isn't it? Fantastic. Well done for remembering all of that from before half term. I'm very impressed. So let's move on to today's learning. So here we have some pictures of some different animals. We have a mouse, we have a frog, we have a cow, a bear, a snake, and a crab. And my question to you is, how are these animals different. Could you pause the video now and have a little think for me? Okay, yeah, too. So let's talk about this question together. How are these animals different? Well, the first way in which I thought that these animals are different is that they belong to different groups of animals. So, for example, we have the cow, which is a mammal, but then we also have the snake, who is a reptile. So therefore, these animals are all different based on what group of animals they belong to. Now, I also thought of a different way in which these animals are different. I also thought about what they eat. So, for example, the bear is a omnivore. It eats both meat and plants. But then you have the snake, who is a carnivore, so it eats meat. And you have the cow, who is a herbivore. It only eats plants. So therefore, we've thought of two different ways in which these animals are different, based on what group of animals they belong to and based on what they eat. I also thought of a third way in which they are different. Can you think of which way I'm thinking of? Well, yes, I'm thinking of how they are different based on how they have babies. So, for example, we've got the frog, who, as you can see on its back, it has frog spawn, and those are eggs, aren't they? So, therefore, a frog lays eggs, and that's how a frog has babies. But then you have the cow, who is a mammal and gives birth to live young. So there we go. We have thought of three different ways in which these animals are different, based on what group of animals they belong to, how they have babies, and what they eat. But now, what do these animals all have in common? Could you pause the video now and have another little think for me? Okay, yeah, too. So let's have a look at this question together. So although these animals are all different, so we looked at what group of animals they belong to, how they had babies, and what they eat, they all need the same things to survive. And there are three main things that they need to survive that we're going to be looking at today. Now, what do you think these three things that all animals need to stay alive are? Could you pause the video now and have another little think for me? Okay, yeah, too. Were you able to think of three different things that you think that all animals need to survive? Fantastic. Well, let's see if you were right. So the first thing that all animals need to stay alive is food. Well, why is this? Why do all animals need food to stay alive? Well, that is because food gives us lots of energy, and this energy allows us to move and also grow. So to go through those different stages of development and to survive, we need lots of food. Now, not only does food give us energy, but food gives us vitamins and minerals. Now, you can find lots of vitamins and minerals in the fruit and vegetables that you eat, as well as other foods. And all of those vitamins and minerals help our bodies to stay healthy. And it also, as I said, allows us to develop and function normally, so to move normally. Okay, so there we go. We need food because it contains minerals and vitamins, which help us to stay healthy. And it gives us energy, which helps us to move and grow and develop. Now, do all animals eat the same thing? No, they don't, do they? Some animals are carnivores. So carnivores, like the lion here, eat meat, okay? So they only eat meat. So first of all, we have the carnivore, but we also have herbivores. Now, herbivores are the complete opposite. They don't eat meat like the carnivores. They only eat plants. So we have the cow here, which is an example of a herbivore. So there we go. We've got carnivores, which eat meat, and we've got herbivores that eat plants. Now, what do omnivores eat? Well, we've got a picture of a fox here, and a fox is an example of an omnivore because a fox eats both meat and plants, okay? So we have the carnivore that only eats meat, the herbivore that only eats plants, and then the omnivore that eats a little bit of both. Now, I would like you to have a little think. Are you a carnivore, a herbivore, or an omnivore? Can you pause the video now and have a think? Okay, Yeti, did you manage to work out if you were a carnivore, a herbivore, or an omnivore? Fantastic. Well, I am an omnivore because I eat meat, but I also eat plants, okay? Plant-based foods like fruit and vegetables. But some of you might have been herbivores. If you don't eat meat and you just eat plant-based food, then you are a herbivore. So fantastic. Well done if you were able to work out if you are a carnivore, a herbivore, or an omnivore. So now, shall we find out the next thing that all animals need in order to survive? So we have food. What do we think the next thing will be? Well, the next thing that all animals need to survive is water. Okay, so all animals need water to survive. And all animals need water to survive because water helps to keep our bodies hydrated. What do I mean by hydrated? Could you pause the video and have a think? What does hydrated mean? Okay, year two, so let's have a look what hydrated means together. So hydrated is an adjective and it means taken in or absorbed enough water. So when you've taken in and absorbed enough water into your body, you are what you call hydrated. Okay, so therefore you need to drink lots of water and in order to keep you hydrated, and that is one of the reasons why it is a basic need for all animals. So for example, we can say water keeps our bodies hydrated. So when we have lots and lots of water, our bodies are hydrated. But you can also say, be sure to stay hydrated today. It's hot, because when it's hot, we need more water, don't we, to stay hydrated. So when it's a hot day, you need to drink even more water than you normally do in order to keep your body hydrated. Okay, so all animals need water to survive because it keeps them hydrated. Now, different animals get water in different ways. Okay, and some animals need more water than other animals. Now, what different ways can animals get water? Well, the first way in which animals can get water is from plants. So, for example, if you're an omnivore or a herbivore, you will get lots and lots of water from the food that you eat. So there we go. There's one way in which you can get water in order to survive.